The alien ship Eternal Horizon moved slowly into Earth's solar system. It was big and silver, with blue lights that pulsed along its sides. Inside the ship, Chief Xenanthropologist Tak stood before a large window, looking at the blue planet growing larger as they approached. "A primitive world," Tak said, his gray skin wrinkling around his large eyes as he smiled. "Another chance to guide a young species." Tak was tall and thin. His people, the Nari, were known for their wisdom and patience. He had studied many developing worlds in his long career. Earth was just another assignment to him, a planet where humans had only recently learned how to leave their atmosphere. "Sir, we are ready for the briefing," said Mina, his assistant. She was younger than Tak, with smoother skin and eager eyes. This was her first mission to a primitive world, and she couldn't hide her excitement. "Very good," Tak said. He turned away from the window and followed Mina to the meeting room. The ship's crew gathered around a table where a 3D image of Earth floated in the air. 12 aliens from different species sat waiting. Da, the security officer, stood with his arms crossed. His thick, armored skin made him look dangerous, which was the point. "Welcome to Earth Briefing," Tak began. "According to our data, humans have only achieved basic spaceflight in the last century. They are divided into many nations and have not yet formed a unified government. Our contact protocols are standard for Level 2 civilizations." He touched the floating Earth, and it zoomed in to show a peninsula in East Asia. "We will land here, in a region called South Korea. It is developed enough to understand our presence, but small enough to control information flow. We will use simple language, basic tech demonstrations, and carefully chosen gifts." Day grunted. "Are they dangerous?" Tak smiled patiently. "All primitive species can be dangerous when frightened. That's why we're here, to guide them gently into the galactic community. Remember, they will likely see us as godlike beings." "What if they attack?" Dai insisted. "They won't," Tak said confidently. "Their weapons are primitive. Besides, we've done this dozens of times. They'll be too amazed to think of fighting." The meeting continued for another hour. The team rehearsed their roles and reviewed human customs. When they finished, Tak felt fully prepared. His species had contacted over 50 developing worlds. Earth would be no different. 3 days later, the Eternal Horizon entered Earth's atmosphere. They used cloaking technology to hide from human detection systems as they descended toward the landing site, a flat area surrounded by mountains. "Final preparations," Tak announced over the ship's speakers. "Remember, these humans have never seen aliens before. They will be shocked, maybe frightened. Be patient and kind." Tak, Mina, and Dai stood before the ship's main door. Behind them were other crew members carrying gifts and equipment. The door slid open, and bright sunlight flooded in. The aliens stepped onto Earth's soil. The air was cooler than their ship, and the gravity slightly stronger. Tak looked around, expecting to see a crowd of shocked humans watching from a distance. Instead, he saw a neat row of black vehicles parked 50 meters away. Between the aliens and the vehicles stood a line of humans wearing identical dark suits. They showed no fear, no surprise, only calm attention. "This is unexpected," Tak whispered to Mina. "They were waiting for us." Before they could discuss further, one of the humans stepped forward. He was not tall, with short black hair and a friendly face. He wore a simple gray suit with a small pin on his lapel. "Welcome to Earth," the man said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Dr. Han, representative of the Global Coordination Committee. We've been expecting you." Tak couldn't hide his shock. "You speak our language?" Dr. Han smiled. "We've been monitoring your communications since you entered the Kuiper Belt. It gave us time to prepare properly." Day moved closer to Tak, his hand near his weapon. "They've been tracking us." "That's impossible." Tak tried to regain control of the situation. He stepped forward and performed the formal greeting gesture of the Galactic Coalition. "I am Chief Xenanthropologist Tak of the Coalition ship *. Eternal Horizon *. We come in peace to welcome Earth into the galactic community. Dr. Han bowed slightly. We are honored by your visit. Please, allow us to show you our hospitality. More humans approached, carrying trays with drinks and small foods. They moved efficiently without staring at the aliens. Tak noticed that none of them seemed afraid or even particularly impressed. This is most unusual, Tak said quietly to Mina. Check your readings. Are these actually humans? Mina discreetly scanned the humans with a small device. Yes, sir. Human DNA confirmed. I don't understand why they're not more surprised by us. Dr. Han approached again. We've prepared a meeting facility nearby. Would you care to join us? We can discuss the purpose of your visit more comfortably there. Tak nodded, still trying to understand what was happening. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. Where was the awe, the fear, the reverence? The aliens followed the humans to their vehicles. Inside, Tak was surprised again by how comfortable and advanced they seemed. The seats adjusted automatically to the aliens' different body shapes. The temperature changed to match their preferences. Your vehicles are quite adequate, Tak said, trying to sound diplomatic. Dr. Han simply nodded. Thank you. They're just basic transportation, but we try to make them comfortable. The vehicle moved smoothly along a paved road, up into the mountains. Through the windows, Tak could see green forests and occasionally small buildings. It all looked very peaceful and orderly. I must admit, Tak said, we expected more reaction to our arrival. In our experience, civilizations at your development stage are usually quite shocked by first contact. Dr. Han smiled politely. We've long suspected we weren't alone in the universe, and we try not to overreact to new situations. The convoy stopped before a large building built into the side of a mountain. It looked simple from outside, just glass and stone. Humans in the same dark suits stood at the entrance. Inside, they were led to a spacious room with a long table. Windows looked out over a beautiful valley. More humans waited inside, standing as the aliens entered. Allow me to introduce some of my colleagues, Dr. Han said. This is Jin, my assistant. He gestured to a younger man who bowed politely. And these are members of our scientific community. The introductions continued, but Tak was only half listening. Something felt wrong. According to Coalition records, Earth had only launched its first orbital satellites about 70 years ago. Yet these humans acted like meeting aliens was an everyday event. When everyone was seated, Tak decided it was time for the planned technology demonstration. He nodded to Mina, who placed a small device on the table. We would like to share a small sample of Coalition technology, Tak announced. This is a molecular synthesizer. It can create simple objects from base elements. Tak activated the device, and a small hologram appeared above it. He manipulated the hologram with his fingers, designing a simple cup. The machine hummed, and moments later, a physical cup appeared. As you can see, Tak continued, this technology is far beyond. Excuse me, Dr. Han interrupted politely. That's quite interesting. May I show you something as well? Without waiting for an answer, Dr. Han reached into his pocket and placed a small black cube on the table. He touched it once, and the cube unfolded itself, turning into what looked like a thin bracelet. This is just a personal device many of us use, Dr. Han said casually. He slipped it onto his wrist, and a holographic display appeared above it, much clearer and more detailed than the one from Tak's device. Dr. Han moved his fingers through the display, then pointed at Tak's cup. The cup rose into the air, spun slowly, then changed color from white to blue. Just a simple matter manipulator, Dr. Han explained. Nothing special. The room fell silent. Tak stared at the floating cup, then at the thin device on Dr. Han's wrist. It was impossible. Matter manipulation at a distance, without direct contact. Even the most advanced Coalition worlds couldn't do that so easily. Day stood suddenly. What kind of trick is this? He demanded. According to our records, your people have barely reached your own moon. Dr. Han gently lowered the cup back to the table. Records can be incomplete, he said mildly, or perhaps misinterpreted. Jin, Dr. Han's assistant, spoke for the first time. We find it's often better to observe quietly before revealing too much. It gives us time to understand others. Tak felt dizzy. This wasn't just unexpected, it was impossible. He had studied Earth's development history carefully, from primitive agriculture to industrial revolution to information age to basic spaceflight, all in a neat, predictable pattern. I think, Dr. Han said, we should start our discussions again, but with fewer assumptions. Would you agree, Chief Tak? Yes, Tak said slowly. I believe that would be wise. Dr. Han smiled, and for the first time, Tak saw something in that smile that made him nervous. Not threat or danger, but knowledge. Deep, confident knowledge that Tak suddenly realized he did not possess. Excellent, Dr. Han said. Then let me welcome you, properly, to Earth. We have much to discuss. As the meeting continued, Tak sent a private message to the ship. Situation not as expected. Humans far more advanced than records indicate, requesting full historical review. Outside the windows, the sun began to set over the mountains. The first day of contact was ending, but Tak had a feeling that everything he thought he knew about humans was about to change. Back aboard the Eternal Horizon Tak paced in his private quarters. The walls displayed Earth's historical data that the Coalition had collected over decades. According to these records, humans had progressed from horse-drawn carriages to space rockets in less than 200 years. It makes no sense, Tak muttered to himself. No species develops that quickly. He stopped before an image showing Earth's first moon landing. Coalition analysts had marked this as a major achievement for such a young species. But now, after meeting Dr. Han and seeing that simple wrist device, Tak wondered what else the records had missed. The door chimed, and Minna entered with a data tablet. Sir, I've analyzed our scans of the meeting room, she said. That device Dr. Han used. It operates on principles we don't fully understand. Tak took the tablet and studied the readings. Energy patterns unlike anything in our database, he said quietly. How is this possible? Did we completely misread their development? There's something else, Minna said. I detected unusual energy signatures throughout their facility. Hidden technology, much more advanced than what they showed us. A loud beep interrupted them. Day appeared on the wall screen, his face tight with concern. Chief Tak, we're detecting unusual signals around our ship, the security officer reported. I believe the humans are scanning us. Can they penetrate our shields? Tak asked, alarmed. They shouldn't be able to, Daz said. But the readings suggest they already have. Tak felt a chill run through his body. First contact missions were supposed to be simple. The Coalition ship would arrive, impress the primitive species with advanced technology, then guide them into proper galactic citizenship. That's how it had worked for centuries. But these humans were different. They weren't following the script. We need more information, Tak decided. Tomorrow, we'll accept their invitation to visit their research facility. But be on guard. Nothing is as we expected here. The next morning, 3 black vehicles arrived to collect the alien delegation. Dr. Han greeted them warmly, as if meeting aliens was an everyday event. I trust you rested well, he asked as they settled into the vehicles. Yes, thank you, Tak replied, trying to sound confident. We're looking forward to seeing your research facility. Dr. Han smiled. I think you'll find it educational. They drove for an hour through mountains and forests. Tak noticed there were few signs of the primitive technology he had expected to see. No power lines, no broadcast towers, nothing that matched Earth's supposed level of development. Finally, they stopped at what looked like a small building nestled against a mountainside. It appeared simple, just stone and glass, like the meeting facility. This is your research center, Dai asked skeptically. Jin, Dr. Han's assistant, smiled. It's larger than it appears. They entered through glass doors that opened automatically. Inside was a small reception area with a single desk. Nothing impressive. Dr. Han placed his hand on a wall panel. A section of the floor began to sink downward, revealing itself as a large elevator platform. Please, join me, he said. The alien stepped onto the platform. It descended smoothly and rapidly. Tak counted the seconds. 10, 20, 30. They were going deep underground. When the platform stopped, they stepped out into a vast open space that made Tak's breath catch. The underground facility stretched for what must have been kilometers. Hundreds of humans moved purposefully among sleek machines and holographic displays. The ceiling glowed with soft light that felt like natural sunshine. Welcome to Research Center 1, Dr. Han said simply. Minna's eyes were wide. This is impossible, she whispered. Our scans showed nothing this large beneath the surface. We value our privacy, Jin said with a slight smile. Dr. Han led them through the facility. Each section revealed technologies that, according to coalition records, humans shouldn't have for centuries. Fusion reactors no bigger than furniture. Computers with no visible parts. Medical equipment that could heal with light alone. Here's something you might find interesting, Dr. Han said, stopping before a large circular platform. Our transportation network. He touched his wrist device, and a swirling portal of light appeared on the platform. Through it, Tak could see what looked like another facility, but with different people and equipment. Step through, please, Dr. Han invited. Tak hesitated. Where does this lead? Another research center, about 4,000 kilometers from here. Dae moved protectively in front of Tak. This is some kind of trick. Teleportation at this scale isn't possible without massive energy expenditure. Jin laughed softly. Perhaps not the way you do it. After some discussion, Minna volunteered to step through. She disappeared into the light and appeared on the other side. They watched through the portal as she looked around in amazement, then returned. It's real, she confirmed. Instant transport, no sensation of movement. Tak felt his worldview crumbling. If humans had this technology, what else did they have? And more importantly, why had they hidden it from the coalition's observers? As they continued the tour, Tak pulled Dr. Han aside. I don't understand, he said quietly. According to our records, your people only achieved powered flight about a century ago. Yet here you have technology that equals or exceeds our own. Dr. Han's expression became more serious. Records can be misleading, especially when they show only what you want others to see. Before Tak could ask what he meant, a commotion erupted behind them. Da had broken away from the group and was attempting to use a communication device. Security breach, Jin called out. Several humans approached quickly but calmly. I'm contacting our fleet, Dae announced. This planet is hiding advanced technology. Protocol requires immediate reporting. Dr. Han didn't seem concerned. Your device won't work here, he said calmly. Dad pressed buttons frantically, then shook the device in frustration. What have you done to block our signals? Nothing, Jin said. But this facility is shielded. For privacy. Dae turned to Tak. Chief, we need to return to the ship immediately. These humans have been deceiving us, deceiving the entire coalition. Deceiving is a strong word, Dr. Han said. I prefer to think of it as waiting until we were ready to share. The tension in the air was thick. Tak looked from Dae's angry face to Dr. Han's calm one. A decision had to be made. We will return to our ship, Tak said firmly, and then we will discuss this situation further. Dr. Han nodded. Of course, we'll take you back immediately. The ride back to their landing site was silent. When they reached the asterisk, Eternal Horizon asterisk, Dae practically leaped from the vehicle. We'll contact you tomorrow, Tak told Dr. Han stiffly. We look forward to it, Dr. Han replied. His calm confidence only made Tak more uneasy. Once aboard their ship, the alien crew gathered in the command center. Da immediately tried to send a message to the Coalition fleet. "All communications are being blocked," he reported angrily. "I can't reach anyone." "That's not all," said the ship's engineer. "I detected unusual energy signatures throughout our systems. The humans have been scanning our technology. All of it. Engine design, weapons, communication protocols, everything." Tak sat heavily in his command chair. "Check our historical database. I want to know exactly what we know about Earth's development and where that information came from." Hours later, Minna presented her findings to the crew. The room fell silent as she explained what they had discovered. "According to our records," she said, "humans progressed from primitive agriculture to basic spaceflight in roughly 3,000 years. Most species take 20,000 years or more to make similar progress." She displayed a timeline of human history, highlighting key technological developments. "The strangest thing is this acceleration," she continued, pointing to recent centuries. "In just 200 years, they supposedly went from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear power. We attributed this to exceptional evolutionary pressure and unusual planetary conditions." "But that was wrong," Tak asked. "It appears so," Minna confirmed. "Because when I check who provided this historical data to the Coalition," she paused, "it was humans themselves." Shocked murmurs filled the room. "Are you saying they've been feeding us false information?" Da demanded. "I believe," Minna said carefully, "they'd been showing us exactly what they wanted us to see." Tak stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth glowing blue and green in the darkness. The beautiful, supposedly primitive world now seemed mysterious and potentially dangerous. "We need to know why," he said finally. "Why would an advanced civilization pretend to be primitive? What purpose does it serve?" "There's only one way to find out," Minna suggested. "We need to ask them directly." Tak nodded slowly. "Tomorrow, we'll request a meeting with their leaders. Not just Dr. Han, but whoever is truly in charge." As the meeting ended, Tak remained at the window, staring at Earth. In all his years of studying developing worlds, he had never encountered anything like this. A civilization that deliberately hid its achievements, that presented a false face to the galaxy. What else were they hiding? And more importantly, why? The answers, Tak suspected, would challenge everything the Coalition thought it knew about the universe. The next morning, a larger convoy of black vehicles arrived at the landing site. This time, Dr. Han wasn't alone. 4 other humans accompanied him, all wearing the same simple dark suits with small pins on their labels. "Chief Tak," Dr. Han said with a polite bow. "The Global Council has agreed to meet with you. They're ready to answer your questions." Tak exchanged glances with Minna and Da. After a night of analyzing what they'd learned, they had more questions than ever. "We appreciate this opportunity," Tak said carefully. "We have much to discuss." The ride was longer this time. They traveled deep into the mountains, following roads that sometimes seemed to disappear into the rock itself. Finally, they arrived at what looked like a simple mountain lodge, wooden and stone, with large windows overlooking a lake. "This is your global government center?" Dai asked skeptically. Jin smiled. "One of many meeting places. We prefer natural settings for important conversations." Inside, the lodge opened into a spacious room with a circular table. 7 humans were already seated, waiting. They stood as the aliens entered. "Welcome," said a woman at the head of the table. "I am Director Sun, current chairperson of the Global Council. We've been looking forward to this meeting for a very long time." Tak was surprised. "You've been expecting us specifically." "Not you personally," Director Sun said, "but we've been preparing for contact with the Galactic Coalition for over 200 years. The aliens took their seats. Tak noticed that unlike most diplomatic meetings he'd attended, there were no guards, no visible security measures, just the council members and the magnificent view of the mountains. "I'll be direct," Tak said. "Your civilization has technology far beyond what our records indicate. You've presented yourselves to the galaxy as a developing world, while hiding your true capabilities. We want to know why. Director Sun nodded. A fair question. But to answer it properly, we need to start at the beginning. She touched a small device on the table, and the lights dimmed slightly. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing stars and galaxies. 300 years ago, she began, we detected the first signals from beyond our solar system. Not natural signals, but communications, evidence of intelligent life. The hologram zoomed in to show Earth, with lines extending outward to different stars. We were excited, of course, Director Sun continued, but we were also cautious. So instead of broadcasting our presence, we listened. We built better receivers. We decoded alien languages. And eventually we learned about the Galactic Coalition and its many member species. Tak leaned forward. That's impossible. 300 years ago, your people were still using steam power and sailing ships, according to our records. An older man at the table laughed softly. According to records we provided to your observers, yes. Director Sun gestured, and the hologram changed to show Earth's history as the Coalition knew it, a steady progression from primitive to industrial to early space age. This timeline, she said, is a carefully constructed narrative. The ancient monuments you've studied, many were built within the last century. The historical records your researchers have examined, created specifically for them to find. Day stood abruptly. You've been lying to the entire galaxy. Please, sit, Director Sun said calmly. We prefer to think of it as protecting ourselves while we learn more about you. Day reluctantly sat down, but his posture remained tense. Director Sun continued. As we studied Coalition communications, we noticed something interesting. The hologram showed various alien technologies across different species. Every civilization in the Coalition follows remarkably similar technological paths, almost as if they all inherited the same foundation. Minna completed the thought. Her scientific curiosity was overcoming her shock. Exactly, said another council member, a man with gray hair and kind eyes. We discovered that most Coalition species base their technology on principles discovered by ancient precursor civilizations. They found the ruins, followed the breadcrumbs, and developed along predetermined paths. But humans didn't have access to these ruins. Director Sun added, we had to discover everything ourselves. And in doing so, we found different answers to the same questions. The hologram changed again, showing complex equations and diagrams that Tak didn't recognize. About 250 years ago, Director Sun continued, we discovered a fundamental principle of physics that the Coalition missed. It allowed us to develop technologies in entirely different directions. Energy generation without radiation, transportation without massive power requirements, manufacturing at the molecular level. Tak felt dizzy with the implications. But why hide this? The Coalition welcomes advanced civilizations. We could have shared knowledge, traded technologies. Director Sun's expression became more serious. Could we? Tell me, Chief Tak, what happens in the Coalition when a supposedly young species advances too quickly? Tak shifted uncomfortably. Well, there are protocols. Containment protocols. Director Sun finished for him. The hologram showed several planets surrounded by monitoring satellites. Species that advance too quickly are placed under observation. Their system is restricted. Their development is guided. It's for their own protection, Dai insisted. Rapid technological development without proper cultural evolution leads to self-destruction. Perhaps, said Director Sun, or perhaps it's to ensure new species develop in ways that fit neatly into the Coalition's existing structure. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Tak had never questioned the containment protocols before. They were standard practice, applied to dozens of worlds over the centuries. So you hid your true capabilities, Tak said slowly. You created a false history, a false trajectory of development. You wanted us to see you as primitive so we wouldn't contain you. We wanted time, Director Sun corrected. Time to develop our own path. Time to understand the galaxy before we joined it. We needed to be ready. Jin leaned forward. Would you like to see what we've really been doing all these years? Before Tak could answer, the entire wall of the lodge facing the lake seemed to dissolve. What had appeared to be a natural lake was now clearly something else entirely, a vast construction site. Thousands of humans worked among huge machines and partially built structures. What is this? Minna asked, moving closer to the now open wall. One of our lunar colony construction centers, Jin explained. We're building modules here, where the atmosphere provides protection during early assembly. Then we transport them to the moon. But your moon has no colony, Day objected. We scanned it thoroughly when we arrived. The side you can see from space has no colony, Director Sun corrected. The far side, however. She touched her device again, and a new hologram appeared, showing the far side of Earth's moon. It was covered with domes, towers, and glittering solar arrays, a massive settlement that could house millions. This is just one of many, Director Sun said. We have similar installations throughout our solar system, all hidden from standard detection methods. Tak sank back into his chair. Everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong. Not everything, said the older council member. We are curious. We are adaptable. We do love exploring. Those parts of our reports were true. Director Sun dismissed the holograms with a wave. The wall solidified again, hiding the construction site from view. Now you understand why we needed to be careful, she said. Throughout your coalition's history, any civilization that appeared too advanced too quickly was subjected to containment and guidance. We chose a different path. The question, Jin added, is what happens now. Tak looked at his fellow aliens. Mina seemed fascinated, her scientific mind already considering the implications of human technology. Dad looked troubled, his loyalty to coalition protocols warring with what he was learning. Why reveal yourselves now? Tak asked. You could have continued your deception. We would never have known. Director Sun smiled. 2 reasons. First, we've reached a point in our development where hiding will soon become impossible. And second, she paused. We believe the coalition needs new perspectives, new ways of thinking. Perhaps it's time for humans to step forward and share what we've learned. The coalition will never accept this, Dai warned. You've broken dozens of first contact protocols. There will be consequences. Only if they find out, Jin pointed out. You could still report that Earth is a promising but primitive world. Your mission would be considered successful. No one would question it. Tak realized he was being offered a choice. He could report the truth and trigger a coalition containment response, or he could participate in the humans' deception, become part of it. Before you decide, Director Sun said, as if reading his thoughts, there's one more thing you should see. The real reason we've been so careful all these years. She stood and extended her hand toward the door. Please follow me. It's time to show you why humanity chose to develop in secret and what we've really been building out there among the stars. Tak stood, his mind racing with questions. As he followed Director Sun from the room, he knew that whatever he was about to see would change his understanding of the galaxy forever. Director Sun led the aliens down a hallway to what looked like a simple elevator. As they entered, Tak noticed there were no buttons or controls of any kind. Where are we going? He asked. To see the truth, Director Sun replied. She touched her wrist device, and the elevator began to move, not down, as Tak expected, but sideways. The elevator traveled for nearly a minute before stopping. When the doors opened, they stepped into a vast circular room with a domed ceiling. The walls were lined with what looked like windows, but instead of showing the mountainside, they displayed different locations: a desert research station, an underwater city, a space platform orbiting Earth. Our primary monitoring center, Director Sun explained. From here, we coordinate humanity's various projects. In the center of the room stood a large circular platform with a control panel. Several humans worked at stations around the room, but they barely looked up as the group entered. Before we proceed, Director Sun said, turning to face the aliens. I must ask for your decision. What you are about to see goes beyond what most coalition members would understand or accept. You have 3 choices. She held up one finger. First, you can leave now, return to your ship, and report Earth as a primitive world of no special interest. We would continue our development in secret. A second finger joined the first. Second, you can choose to report what you've already seen. The coalition would likely initiate containment protocols, and conflict would be inevitable. She raised a third finger. Or third, you can see everything, understand our true place in the galaxy, and perhaps become a bridge between humanity and the coalition when the time is right. Day stepped forward. My duty is clear. The coalition must be informed about. Wait, Tak interrupted. He had spent his career studying developing worlds, believing he was helping guide them toward a better future. Now he wondered if he had been wrong all along. I want to understand, he said finally. Show us everything. Day shook his head. Chief Tak, this violates all protocols. I'm staying too, Minna said firmly. This is the most important scientific discovery of our lives. Day looked from Tak to Minna, then at the humans watching them. I cannot participate in this deception, he said. I request to return to our ship. Director Sun nodded as if she had expected this. We respect your loyalty, Officer Da, but we cannot allow you to report what you've seen before your colleagues have seen everything. You would hold me prisoner? Da asked, his hand moving toward his weapon. No, Jin said quickly. We offer another option. He held up a small device. This will adjust your memories of the past day. You'll remember visiting Earth, meeting with primitive but promising humans, and concluding they need more time to develop. Day stared at the device. Memory manipulation. This is forbidden technology. Yet another thing we developed on our own path, Director Sun said quietly. The choice is yours, Officer Da. See everything with your colleagues, return with altered memories, or she left the third option unspoken. The room was silent as Da considered. Finally, his shoulders slumped slightly. I will return to the ship. Use your device. Jin nodded respectfully. A brave choice. This way, please. As Jin led Da from the room, Director Sun turned back to Tak and Minna. Now let me show you why humanity chose to hide in plain sight. She activated the central platform. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, spinning slowly. Tiny points of light marked coalition worlds. 200 years ago, Director Sun began. As we were decoding your communications, we discovered something disturbing. She touched the display, and several areas of the galaxy turned red. These regions once contained advanced civilizations. Civilizations that developed along different technological paths than the coalition standard. Civilizations that no longer exist. Tak stepped closer to the display. What happened to them? According to the coalition records we accessed, they destroyed themselves. Director Sun said, unstable technologies led to their collapse. That's the official explanation. You don't believe it, Minna observed. We found evidence suggesting otherwise. Director Sun expanded one region of the display. This was the Varan civilization. According to coalition records, they developed unusual energy technology that eventually destabilized their star system. The display showed a solar system with a shattered planet. But when we analyzed the coalition communications from that period, we found something strange. Fleet movements, restricted zones, references to containment operations. And then, silence. Tak felt cold. Are you suggesting the coalition destroyed the Varan? We're suggesting, a new voice said, that the coalition doesn't tolerate civilizations that develop technologies too different from their own. A tall man had entered the room. He wore a simple gray uniform with no markings. This is Ha. Director Sun introduced him. Our colonial administrator. Colonial administrator? Minna asked. Ha nodded to the display. May I? Director Sun stepped aside. and had adjusted the galaxy map. Several points of light, far from Earth and Coalition space, began to glow blue. These, he said, are human colonies, established over the last century using methods undetectable to Coalition sensors. Tack stared at the display in shock. Some of the blue points were deep in unexplored space, thousands of light years from Earth. How? He asked simply. Director Sun smiled. Remember that fundamental principle of physics I mentioned. It allows for something your scientists would call dimensional apertures. You might think of them as shortcuts through space. Like the transportation platform we saw yesterday, Minna said, understanding dawning on her face. Exactly, Hay confirmed. But on a much larger scale, we can move people, resources, entire habitats between star systems without conventional travel. No ships, no warp signatures, nothing that would alert the Coalition to our presence. He expanded the display to show one of the blue points. It revealed a thriving settlement on a green world, with structures that blended almost perfectly with the natural environment. We currently have 37 major colonies and over 200 research outposts spread across this arm of the galaxy, Hess said, all established quietly, all developing according to our own principles. Tack needed to sit down. The implications were staggering. Humans hadn't just hidden their technological advancement. They had secretly expanded throughout the galaxy while pretending to be barely able to reach their own moon. Why show us this now? He asked finally. You're taking an enormous risk. Director Sun sat across from him. Because we've reached a decision point. Our expansion will soon be impossible to hide completely. And frankly, we're tired of hiding. We don't want conflict with the Coalition, Hay added. But we won't be contained either. We hope that understanding minds like yours can help bridge the gap when the time comes. Mina had been studying the display closely. These colonies, they don't follow standard development patterns. They're integrated with their environments. Yes, Hess said, sounding pleased by her observation. We learned early on that conquering nature was less effective than partnering with it. Our technologies work with planetary ecosystems rather than despite them. He showed them images of cities nestled in forest canopies, underwater habitats that looked like natural reefs, and orbital platforms that harvested energy without mining or pollution. This is how we've expanded without detection, Hay explained. Our footprint is light. Our presence is subtle. We leave the worlds we settle better than we found them. Tack thought about the Coalition worlds he knew. Many of them stripped of resources, dependent on imports, their natural environments contained in carefully managed preserves, while cities and industries dominated the landscape. Your way is different, he acknowledged. But that doesn't mean the Coalition would see it as wrong. History suggests otherwise, Director Sun said gently. The Coalition has one approved path of development. Civilizations that stray too far from that path tend to disappear. She deactivated the display, and the room fell silent. So what happens now? Tack asked finally. That depends partly on you, Director Sun replied. You know our secret. You know we aren't the primitive world the Coalition believes us to be. What will you tell your superiors? Tack considered carefully. His entire career had been built on following Coalition protocols, on believing in the guided development of young species. But everything he'd seen on Earth challenged those beliefs. I need time to think, he said. Of course, Director Sun agreed. But perhaps there's one more thing you should see first. She led them to another room where a human woman sat before a console. Next to her stood what looked like a human child, but something about it wasn't quite right. Hello, the child said, smiling at the aliens. I am Sora. Sora is an AI partner, the woman explained. Not a robot or a computer program, but a true artificial intelligence that exists in symbiosis with human hosts. Sora's form flickered slightly, revealing its holographic nature. We developed AI differently than the paths observed in Coalition species, Director Sun explained. Not as servants or tools, but as partners. They share our worlds, our colonies, our discovery of the galaxy. The coalition forbids true AI, Dai would have said if he were still with them. But Tak was beginning to understand why humans had hidden so much. When they returned to the main room, Tak had made his decision. I will report that Earth is a promising primitive world worthy of minimal observation, he said, and I will request to remain as the liaison, to continue studying your development. Director Sun smiled. And what will you actually be doing? Learning, Tak said simply, about your technologies, your colonies, your way of seeing the universe, and perhaps, when the time is right, helping prepare the coalition for the truth. And you? Director Sun asked Mina. The young scientist didn't hesitate. I'm staying too. There's too much to learn here. Hours later, as they prepared to return to their ship, Jin approached with news. Officer Da has returned to your ship with adjusted memories, he reported. He believes your mission was routine and successful. Tak nodded, feeling a twinge of guilt about deceiving his security officer. But sometimes he was beginning to realize the true path forward wasn't the obvious one. As their vehicle approached the Eternal Horizon *, Dr. Han turned to Tak. You understand, of course, that what you've seen is only the beginning. We've shown you perhaps 10% of what humanity has actually achieved. Tak looked out the window at his ship, then back at Earth, the supposedly primitive world that had completely upended his understanding of the galaxy. I look forward to learning the rest, he said. 3 days later, the Eternal Horizon transmitted its report to the coalition fleet. Earth was classified as a promising primitive world worthy of minimal observation, exactly as the humans had suggested. As the coalition ships departed, Tak stood with Mina and Dr. Han at the edge of a mountain overlook. Before them, the landscape suddenly shifted, revealing vast structures and energy signatures that had been invisible moments before. The real Earth emerged from behind its carefully maintained facade, a gleaming network of advanced technology seamlessly integrated with the natural world. Welcome, Director Sun said, joining them at the viewpoint, to the real Earth. Perhaps it's finally time for humanity to step onto the galactic stage, not as newcomers, but as teachers. Tak watched as the stars appeared in the evening sky. Somewhere out there, human colonies were thriving, following a different path than anything the coalition had known. He wondered how the galaxy would change when they finally revealed themselves.